Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining NEOS Academy. Today's Academy will be on checklist, automation, calendar, and using the Outlook add-in. I'm Pam Hodge. I'm the business consultant in our professional services department. I'll be your host. Co-host are Lauren Root, who is our knowledge base guru. She does all of the knowledge base articles. And then we have Ms. Dawn Rowan, who is our QA and trainer in our support team. So we will be going over the primary and auxiliary checklist, how to create, edit, and modify, how to add automation. We'll be talking about case dates and adding templates to your checklist. Then we'll move into calendar. Make sure you have the correct permissions, how to add, reschedule, and cancel events. And then we'll talk about the difference between the main calendar and the case calendar. For several firms who do have Law Toolbox, we'll touch on that for a minute. And then we'll round everything out with how to use the Outlook add-in, tagging emails, and then how to file attachments that are in emails. And then Ms. Lauren will round out the Academy, going over our knowledge base articles and our support portal. Remember, if anybody has any questions as we're going through this, use the Q&A down there, and Ms. Dawn and Ms. Lauren will answer those as quickly as possible. Okay. Looks like we still have people logging in, but we have a lot of information to go over. So we're just going to go ahead and dive right into the Academy. As always, when we are working with NEOS, the very first thing that you always need to do is make sure people have the correct permissions. So what you're going to do is you're going to go to your settings and you're going to go to your permissions. So down here under staff profiles and permission groups. We always say that it's best to set up permission groups. So once you go into your permission groups, you're going to choose the group that you're looking for. And I'm going to go under Pam's group. And then we're going to go over a couple of different groups itself. So because we're going to be dealing with our checklist, primary and auxiliary checklist, we want to go under directories. By default, all permissions are turned off. But if you want people to be able to see the checklist, you want to make sure that you enable it. What this allows the the user to do is to actually go into settings and see the checklist. If you want them to be able to add, modify, or delete, they would need all these permissions and checklist. And if we're going to do automated workflows, which is a platinum feature, you would want to make sure all those are turned on as well. Okay. Once you have that set, you want to hit the save button. But before we leave here, we're going to go up here to our case permissions. When I go to case permissions, we want to make sure that people can see deadlines, add deadlines, modify, or delete if needed. And then because we're going to be doing checklists, you want to make sure that they have the ability to see your checklist, add checklist items, modify existing, and then those people who have permission to delete. And I'm going to scroll down just a little bit more. And since we're going to be talking about the calendar, the same options when it comes to the case calendar: enable, add, modify, and delete. All right. Once you set all these for your users, you're going to hit save. Once you hit save, it's going to give them the permissions to do all this. Once you save, you always will get the green data saved successfully. Okay. So when you log into NEOS each morning, your dashboards appear. This first widget is our checklist widget. Within this checklist, you're able to see everything that you need to do for today. If you have not completed something, it's going to show you your uncompleted items. As you're looking at this, if you select on the case right here, it's going to take you to the checklist itself. Here, you're able to change the status of the item. If you want to mark it done, you just hit that and notice it changes it to done. Once those changes are done, you're going to hit refresh checklist. So when you're working on this each morning, you can say, oh, I forgot to mark this complete from yesterday. Go ahead and mark it. And then once you hit refresh checklist, it's going to update your checklist itself. So your checklist is going to give you all of your deadlines, all of your tasks that you need to do for the day. All right. So let's talk about how to build out checklists. So this next portion that we're going to talk about, you have to have the correct permissions that we just went over to be able to make modifications to your checklist. So to make modifications to your checklist, you're going to go to setting and you're going to go to case type. Each checklist is based off of the case type that you're looking at. So if I go to case type, I'm going to go down to my dog bite. So here I select on my dog bite. So I have my options over here, general, label, case dates, and primary checklist. What we're going to be focusing on is primary checklist. So when I touch the primary checklist, this is going to give me a view of all the items that is in my checklist. Up here, we have phase, staff, active, has documents, or is it a single or repeating item? As you're looking at this, we're going to go more into depth what all this is. When you're first coming into your checklist, you have two views. You have the tree view, which is what we're looking at now, or you have a flat view. So when I change this over to flat view, what is the biggest difference? The flat view will give you every item, whether they're attached to a child item. So here, when I'm looking at this, the fee agreement and medical authorization has this, I call it a little candelabra on the side. If I was to hit that, it's going to open up this, and then I get to see all of the information. When I'm sitting here, my task name is the task at hand. The code will tell me what is my special code. Firms can create their own codes. There is no standardization that NEO says that you have to use these codes. These codes need to mean something to the firm. When you're looking at codes, if you're thinking about it, if you're going to do a lot of reporting, you want your codes to be consistent across your cases. Then you have your color. When you hit this, you're going to get the color wheel. You can go in here and choose any color that you want. Once you choose the color you want, you hit OK. So it's going to say that this item is this color. The reference. What is the trigger date for this item? So when I hit this drop down, I get all these codes. If this item that you're doing should be linked to something else, you can choose what we call the parent item to a checklist. So you have parent items and then you have child items. Your parent item will say, hey, once the, my parent item would be the fee agreement and medical authorization. And a child item to that could be follow up to it. So once you set up your primary or your parent checklist item, you can say, hey, I want a follow up. So once this is marked done, it's going to trigger my next item. So your reference can be another checklist item. It can be the date that the case is opened, the date of incident, or it can be linked to case date. Once we go through this, we'll go back and talk about case dates. Here, REF means reference, and I have it based off of the case open date. So COD equals case open date. If I wanted it to be the date of incident, I can say a DOI, which is my date of incident. So as I start typing in here, it's going to see what information is here in this dropdown. Or I can hit the dropdown itself and scroll to see what I want it to be linked to. The staff, what position is responsible for this item? If the attorney needs to be assigned to it, you choose attorney. If the case manager, you choose case manager. So when you're opening up a case and you assign different people to those roles based off the case, it will automatically assign that checklist item to that specific person. Next, we have single and repeating. If you want this checklist item to show up one time, you choose single. But if you want this item to show up multiple times, if you change it to repeat, when you mark something done, it's going to prompt up and say, hey, do you want this to reoccur again? Then you can say yes, or you can set it up to auto repeat. Once you mark it done, it will automatically create the next entry for you. Days for due date. So if you have a reference here, you can say, hey, I want this item to pop up how many days from the date of incident. So if this is case open date, and I say I want it to immediately pop up as soon as the case is open, I would choose 0. But if I want this to pop up 5 days after the case is open, I would type in the number 5. Next, we have phases. So when you're thinking about the phase of your case, that you're able to create phases so that says, hey, that this checklist item should be in this part of my case. So if you think about as you're working cases, you have, your investigation, you have your treatment, you have your demand phase, you have your discovery, litigation, and so forth like that. So you can set up these phases. And when I hit this drop down, all these phases are going to be pulled in from the phases that you set up over here. And we'll go back and talk about setting up your phases in just a minute. Now, if this checklist item is associated with your statute of limitations, in NEOS it's called LIM, you would hit the checkbox. Why is that important? So when you're working your cases, if this item here is related to your statute of limitations, it's going to auto-populate your statute of limitations in your header. And we'll talk about that in a few minutes. Next, we have docs and forms. This doc, so if you have a template that needs to be generated when you mark this item done. So here, fee agreement, if you have a fee agreement that you want automatically created when somebody marks something done, you can attach that fee agreement to this item. So if you're doing like letters of representation to your client, to adjusters, to opposing counsel, if you create a checklist item that says do something and create this document, once they mark it, it will pop up for them to create the letter for you. And then it will mark the item as done once the letter has been created. All right. Oops. All right. And then active, whether it's going to show up in your checklist or not. And then you have instructions. So this would be specific instructions related to this task item. So if there are specific things that you want your staff to do or the staff to do when they're doing this task, you can put specific instructions in down here. Once you're here and you make any modifications and you add items, you can hit save. So let's go here and let's add a brand new item. So when I hit add, I get the same box that we just went over. Everything is blank. Everything is blank because I want to create new ones. So if I say, the task is send letter to tokens. Okay, I can create whatever code I want. So once I do my task name, I can create my code. I get to choose my color. Once I choose my color, I say, okay. I want it to be based off the date the case is open. So I choose COD. And again, we'll go back to case dates and references in just a minute. Who's going to be assigned to it? I can say, hey, I want this to be the records clerk. Single or repeating, how many days? I want it to pop up 10 days after the case is open. I get to choose my phase. I can say, choose one of these, or I can leave it unphased. Now, when we're talking about phases, we need to remember when you create checklist items and you attach it to a phase, every item within that phase has to be marked completed before you will see the checklist items for the next phase. So I'm going to say unphased. If it's a LIM date, if I have a document and then active, and then any special notes or special instructions that I have for the staff when they're doing this task item. Once I hit the little arrow button up here, it says save. When I hit save, it's going to give me a pop-up. It's going to say, hey, you added a new line item and you made modifications to an existing checklist item. If I want these things to be attached to all open cases, I need to do that. So once I click these two buttons, any changes that I just made will be pushed out to any case that is marked open in my system, whether it is a case or an intake. Once I make the decision, I say save, and it's going to update it. Down here, it's going to give you that it's completed. All right, so let's go talk about your phases. So if I go over here to labels and I go to phases, down here, I get to choose, my phases. By default, Neos comes like pre-built out with 5 phases. But if I want to add additional, I would go here and say add a case phase. Adding a case phase will affect previous created cases with this case type. So once I hit continue, what it's telling me is if I create a new phase for this case type, I need to update my checklist. So here I get to choose my phase, name it whatever I want it to be named, and then I can hit save. But before I hit save, I have case phase over here. When you're looking at this, this is the phase of the case. Over here, you get to choose what phase you want it in. What's the difference between the two? This is going to appear in your checklist, but when you're running reports, this information is what's going to pull into those reports. Okay. Once I hit save, it's going to save and update this. So if I was to go back to my checklist items, something went wrong. So if I go back to my checklist and I go to that one specific item that I just created where it says PAM 01, when I go here and I hit the details, I can go in here and change my phase to that phase that I just added in here. Once I choose that phase, and then I can hit the back and it will save that. So once I hit save, it will update my checklist item. Again, if I want to create a new, I hit new. If I want to go in here and make modifications to existing, I just go here to my details and I make the modifications over here. Once you make any modifications over here, like this here, and I go back button and I hit save, I get to choose. Do I want this to be added to any of my open cases and intake? If that's a true statement, I hit save and it's going to update that. Now, when we've talked about phases, and now let's go talk about case dates. So case dates are dates that are important to your case. So if I go here and I look at a case that I already have here, and I'm looking at my checklist items, and I go over here to my case tab. When I go to my case tab and I scroll down to the middle of the screen where it says case date, these are where all of my case dates reside. How do they get here? So if I go back to my dog bite and I go to case dates, any case dates that are under selected is going to appear in your case layout. I have all these over here that are already in my system that I can pick and choose to move over. So if I have an item over here that I want to appear in my case layout, I just drag and I drop it over. Once I drag and drop it over, I get the blue save button. So once I hit save, it will say, hey, the 314 meeting is one of my case dates. Now, if you have a case date that you need to add that is not in your selected and it's not available in your labels, that's when you're going to go to your settings. You're going to go to your mini directories and go to case date labels. When I go to case date labels, this is going to show you everything that you have available. You always want to make sure that maybe somebody had something that they actually made inactive. So you can scroll down or you can go right here under label and click in this field and then type in to see if you can find the label itself. Come on. So if I go in here and I can type in there. All right. Once I decide that what I need is not there, I can hit the plus key. When I hit the plus key, it's going to give me a new entry. When I double click in here, this is when I get to choose what my date label is. Once I choose my date label, it's going to add it and it will automatically be marked as active. Okay. Once I hit save, it will add that case date into the list that I get to choose from. Now, if I was to go directly back here and say, hey, can I see my date label over here? Is it here? No, I don't see it. So if I'm looking, okay, I don't see it. Why don't I see it? Because I made an administrative change. So I need to do a refresh and then I need to close out of here. Once I close out, I can go right back to my case types. I'm going to go back to my dog bite. Once I go back to my dog bite, it should be there. Sometimes, depending on how fast your cache cleans out in Neos, sometimes if I come back here and I'm looking for it, is it going to appear? If it does not appear at this time, this is when you would want to do a full refresh by going up here and hitting the refresh. You see my case date here. Now I can drag and drop it over here and drop it into my case date labels. Okay. Once I'm here, if I decide that I want it to be first in line, I just drag and drop it. As I'm looking at these different orders, if I want to put my things in different orders, I just drag and drop. Once I decide what order they're going to be, I hit save. Once I hit save, and then it's going to be that way. Now, here, if I go back to this case type, you're not going to see any of those changes. You're not going to see any of these changes because it's a different case type. So if I'm specifically looking for Hodge dog bite, I can go up here to browse cases. I can go to my case type. I can choose that. And then it's going to give you the case or cases that is associated with this case type. So if I double click on this case and I go down here to my case dates, you're going to see that same order that I just rearranged in my settings. Okay, so if I go back over here and I go, now I'm going to go back to my checklist. So once I go back to my checklist, all those other options are there. So if I go directly back to this one item and I hit details, if I want to change that my reference is going to be Pamela 819, once I make that and I hit the back button, I get the blue save button. Once I hit the blue save button, it's going to ask me if I want to add this to all open items. I'm going to hit the checkbox and hit save. Once I hit save, if I go back to my case and now I go look at my checklist, it's going to give me my items here. So right here is going to tell me that this item is due and it was due back in September of last year. The reason it's showing September of last year is because the case was opened. If I go back to my case tab, it's going to tell you the case was opened on 9/14. I can go in here and I can change this and say that the case was opened today. Once I add that date in there and I hit save. And now if I go back to my checklist, it's going to show that the checklist is going to update that date. Again, when I'm looking at my checklist all together, if I'm looking for a case specific checklist, I go here to my checklist. But if I'm looking for all of my cases, I can use my dashboard and it's going to show you all of the checklist items that is assigned to me with the due dates. Okay. You do have another option over here. It says open checklist summary. When I go to open checklist summary, I have all my little filters. I can do it by checklist staff assigned, who the primary staff is, who the case assigned staff is. I can choose date ranges. I can say, show me all of my checklist or only ones that are open. So if I hit this X and I apply, it goes from just open items to every single item that's in my system. If I hit the drop down, I have a couple of more options where I can do it by checklist code. So when I said that you're able to choose whatever checklist code that you want, that's where you can go here and say now, hey, I only want to see checklist codes that have Pam in it. Now it's going to show me all checklists once I hit apply that have my code. Now, if I said, hey, only show me those checklist items that are marked done, once I choose my status to done and hit apply, it's not going to show me any. So when you're looking at your filters, make sure that you always check your filters before you're looking at the checklist items done. Now, if you create checklist items where it is a manual entry. So if I go back here to my primary checklist, if you decide the entry that you're working with, you don't want it to be associated with anything, when you hit this X key, if I hit this, you can get rid of the reference. So it's going to say it's not found. So what I want to do is I want to go look for MAN, M-A-N. So when that occurs, it says that I want to manually create my due date. I want this item applied to my checklist, but I want to choose the due date. Once I do that and I hit save, it's going to ask me if I want to do it to all open cases. I'm going to say yes. Once I hit save and I get confirmation it's there, I can go back to my case. And then I am going to always do a refresh just to make sure that everything is updating appropriately. Sorry, guys, I got like a tickle in my throat. So my due date would change to manual. So here, what it would be is if it is a manual due date, if I have to set my due date, you see where it says set due date here? Notice that any item that says set due date, you must go here to the checklist item and mark it open. Once you mark it open, then you can set your due date. So once you set your due date, you're going to refresh. Why do you have to change this from blank to open? In order for it to appear on that checklist item, when you first log in, you want to make sure that you say it's an open item, because a lot of times people may add things to their checklist that they don't want to see in that daily checklist. You will always be able to see them in your checklist summary, but if you're looking at your daily list, it will not pop up here until you mark it open and set the due date. All right, so that is the basis of the primary checklist. So we're going to start talking about auxiliary checklist. So if I go back here to my settings and I go here to auxiliary checklist, the concept is the same when you're creating auxiliary checklist. If you're creating a brand new auxiliary checklist, you're going to hit the add button here. Once you hit the add button here, you're able to name your checklist. Once you name your checklist, I always tell people to hit save before you move forward, but that's just me. So once you save your checklist, you come back here. Now here is all your task items. You're going to go here, you're going to hit the plus key, and this is where you can add in your, your task. So you just say, whatever the task is, task 1. You can give it a code. You're going to choose your color. You can choose the reference. So I'm going to say date of incident. You're going to choose who it's going to be assigned to. It's single or repeating, and then auto repeat. And I want it to be 120 days from the date of incident. You choose your phase. If it's slim, click this, and then you put your instructions down here. Once I create this auxiliary checklist and I hit save, it's going to be available to me. Again, it's going to say, hey, we have a brand new checklist items. It's a manual reference, and then hit save. So it's going to create this new auxiliary checklist. Now, how do you get auxiliary checklists associated with your cases? We'll get there in just a minute. But before I leave this item, if you notice over here, it says PAM auxiliary. It is active, but there's a column for litigation. If you want this checklist to change the tag in your case header to litigation, this is where you want to make sure that this button is checked to show that this case is in litigation. Once I hit save, if I go back here to my case here, notice up here where it says open. Once I add my auxiliary checklist, and because I have it marked as litigation, this little icon is going to change. So over here on the checklist tab, I'm going to hit add auxiliary checklist. Once I hit add auxiliary checklist, I choose whatever auxiliary checklist that I want, and then I hit save. When I hit save, it's going to tell you that they're going to be adding checklist items, and do you wish to continue? If I say yes, let me choose a different one. I'm going to choose discovery deadlines. So once I hit save, do I want to do this? I say yes, and discovery deadline auxiliary has been added to the case checklist in this case. So once I hit close and I hit refresh, if that discovery one had the litigation attached to it, it would change this. So if I go back to this other case that I always play with, notice that my tag is in red. When you're looking at your header, this is what's going to indicate or be able to see that this case is in litigation. When I'm looking at my column header, any auxiliary checklist that I've added where it says litigation tiles, it will tell you which auxiliary checklist I have added to this case. All right, so I'm going to go back here to my checklist. If I have any checklist items where I was to create a document that was associated with it, when I would go to the checklist item itself, right here, when I go here, let's see if this one has a template associated with it. Now that I click this and I'm looking at my details, this is going to say that this one's associated with this item. Doesn't show that right here where it says file closing letter. When I have this open, if I hit generate document right here, it's going to go grab my template. It is going to have me choose our client, what type of document it is, so forth. And then I get to choose my category, and then I hit generate document. Once I hit generate document, it is going to generate my document. Once it is finished, you will see it down here. I can open up my document. At that point, it's just my Word document, and I proceed like any other way. Okay. Now that I have done that, and I hit, and I'm here, notice that it's going to say that it's marked done now. So by just opening up that panel, that side panel, it will create my letter, and then it's going to mark my checklist item as completed. All right. Now, once a checklist has been added to a case, that's when you can create automation for your checklist. So if I go here where it says send referral letter, if I hit the details, here you're going to see automation. If you are a platinum customer, you have the automation. So once I hit the automation, it is going to pop up the screen. I'm going to go over here and I am going to name my automation. Once I name my automation, I'm going to go over here and say, hey, this is associated with checklist code A15. It's for this specific case type. Right here where it says assignee, I don't want it to always choose the person that may be doing something. So I'm going to say any. So what does that mean? So when you change this to any, it says anytime anybody goes in there and marks this item done, it will trigger this automation. Okay. Next, when I say it is marked done. Okay. So I've set up my trigger. Now I can go over here and say, what action do I want them to take? When I hit add action, I can send a text message, I can send an email, or if it is an intake, I can change my intake status. So if I say send text message, once I choose that, this is when I come back over here and I can tell it what to do. If I want them to contact us, I can say contact us. When I say to, who is it going to? It's going to go to my first party because I want it to go to my client. And then who is it from? When I hit the drop down, I either have primary staff or trigger staff. The difference is whoever is the primary staff on the case, the text message is going to go out like that. But I would want it to trigger off the person who is marking the item done. So I'm going to say trigger staff. I can choose a subject and I can choose a body. But remember, because we're using a template that we already set up, we don't have to do those. So what I can do is once I hit save, it is going to go ahead and create my automation. So when I'm in this detailed window, you're going to see the automation over here. All right. So if I close out of this, and with that being said, if I go back in to this item, again, I click this, so we know it's there. And I know that once I mark this done, it's going to create my letter because there's a document attached to it. I can send that out, and then it's going to automatically send my text message out. Now, if you have premium texting, it would go out by that platform. But if you have text to email, email to text, you're going to see it here. So right here, because we have premium turned on, it automatically sent my text message and it said, we tried to reach you regarding your claim. Please give us a call back at blah, blah, blah. And all the staff person had to do was mark it done, and it automatically sent that email out. I mean, that text message out. I can do it by text message. I can do it by email, whatever that scenario is. Now, currently, these automations are for platinum customers, and they are associated with the checklist item that is already attached to a case. In September, we have a release coming out the end of September, around 16th, 17th timeframe, and you're going to see a lot more automation available. So when you get that little pop-up that says, hey, Brian Billing is doing what's new in Neos, make sure you guys attend that and go to that, because Brian will go in depth with all the additional features that you're going to have with automation. Okay. Now, when I go back here to my primary checklist, if I want to add a document or a form to one of these entries, so I can say send referral letter. Of course, when I hit that, again, I will hit my drop down to choose whatever document I want it to generate. Now, when you're here, you want to make sure you choose your document so that way when somebody marks that item complete, it will trigger that document to generate. Okay. That's about a wrap basic overview when it comes to checklists, how to create them, how to edit them. talked about phases, talked about case states. If your firm is struggling with checklist and you need additional training, you can always reach out to the training team, or you can request a training through the portal, which Lauren will talk about at the end. All right. So now we're going to talk about calendaring. So here, if I'm in my case, if I go to my case calendar, this case calendar is specific to this case. If I look at my calendar over here, it is looking at my calendar for all my cases, all that information. If you notice, I have a couple of people's names checked up here. I have Jennifer and Kelly. Sure, a lot of you guys have had come in contact with Jennifer Kelly. There are trainers. So when I go here, they're already here. If I want to get rid of them in my list, I just hit my three dots and I say remove. And when you're looking at this, now I have my calendar. I can look at today. I can look at the day. I can look at the week. I can look at the work week, month agenda, or month agenda. All these same functionalities are the same functionalities that you have in Outlook. Okay. This is just like an overlay of what you see in Outlook. Now, if I want to see those other people's calendars, and I go up here and I hit the plus key and I choose Jennifer again, and I choose Kelly, and then I'm going to choose LAR. Okay. Once I hit save, when I'm looking here, I'm good. I can see Jennifer's calendar and I can see Kelly's calendar. Lucy Rogers, there's an X next to her, and it's because I don't have permission to her calendar. So let's go back over here to settings, and let's go back over here to permission groups. And when I'm looking at this, if I go back here to here, if I'm looking, do I have permission to the calendars? I have permission to the calendars. So why am I not seeing her calendar? That is because in order for me to see Lucy's calendar in Neos, I also have to have Microsoft Outlook permission. So if you want somebody to see your calendar, you have to give them permission in Outlook to view your calendar within Neos. So if I was to select, go back here, go today, and I get to see my calendar, Jennifer's calendar, Kelly's calendar, but here I don't get to see anything for Lucy. Now, when you're looking at these calendars, if you decide that you don't want the person who has access to see everything, that's fine. You can say, hey, they only get to view it. But if you want that person to be able to add things to your calendar and all that, they have to have editor's rights as well. All right. Now, when I am on a case and I go here to my case calendar, I have Outlook archived and all events. Outlook will tell me anything that is on Outlook. Archive, if I have created anything and it's already been marked completed, canceled, rescheduled, or whatever. And then if I go to all events, it's going to show me everything, whether it is an active Outlook event or an archived event. So here it's going to show me everything. These Outlook events will show you things that are in the future or things that have not been marked as completed. Now I'm going to go here and hit new event. When I hit new event, it's going to auto populate my subject. Beyond that, I can add whatever I want. It will give you your case name and your Neos file number, the date. When is the date of the appointment? If it's tomorrow at 12:30, I get to choose whatever date. I can go in here and put whatever time. Once I hit OK, it's going to populate this date. But let's just say, hey, I want it to be a calendar event and I want it 10 days from today. If I'm here, I can hit my calculator and I can say, I want it 20 days from today. That's going to give me my result. And then I can hit save and it will update it to that date. If I want Outlook reminders, if it's an all-day event, who the organizer is. So by default, it's going to choose the person who's creating it. How do I want it to show in my Outlook? Am I busy, free, out of the office, whatever the scenario is? Type, what is it? If it's a hearing, I can choose hearing. If it's trial, I can choose trial. Down here, who needs to attend this appointment? So I can choose people that are in my office. If I choose somebody who is outside my office, I can type in that person's email address. So when I'm typing in an email address here, it will add them automatically, or I can hit my groups. So if I was to hit groups, these are my staff groups. So I can choose those. Okay. Location, where is it? There'd be an actual location. Status. So right now I want it to show open because it's an open matter. And then here, whatever my notes are regarding this appointment, I put in there. Now I hit save. When I hit save, it is going to save it to this case. So here, I have it here. It would send the notification to Lucy that she needs to attend this hearing. Now, if the court or somebody comes back and says, hey, we need to change that, you can come right back in here. You can hit 3 dots and you can cancel it. So if you're here and you want to cancel it, you can go here and hit cancel, completed. If you hit cancel, it is going to cancel it. But say, I want to reschedule this. If I hit reschedule that there, down here, I can cancel the event. So if I hit cancel this event is linked to a case. Are you sure you want to cancel it? You can choose and keep an archive of the original. So if it's truly canceled, I would want to keep it. I can choose that it was canceled, and then I can hit cancel event. But let's just say that this event has been canceled because it's been rescheduled. So right here, if I say reschedule, cancel event, I can say reschedule and then hit cancel event, and it will save my information. So here it removes it from the event. It's going to put it in archive because it was canceled or rescheduled. And then if I go under all events, you'll see everything here. If I'm making changes, I can hit refresh and you'll see all the refresh here. Now, again, if I'm looking at my calendar here, it's for everything for the entire day. When I'm at the case level and I'm looking here, it is specific to this case. All right, I know we're coming up on time. If your firm has Law Toolbox, so if I'm on the case tab and you see case dates, if you have Law Toolbox are able to calculate your deadlines and stuff like that. If you're a firm that is using Law Toolbox and you need assistance setting it up, or you have additional questions, you can reach out to our support team, but it is an integration that we fully integrate with. Over here, you have your settings. When you go to your settings, you're able to choose what state and then what court you're in, and then it will trigger items within the settings. If I go back over here to my settings and I go down here to my integrations, remember, anything live up top, anything available at the bottom. So if I hit Law Toolbox here, this is where you would set up all your items of what states you practice in, what configurations and stuff like that. And then you can set the default reminders to pop up 2 weeks or multiples within that. Okay. Now, with that being said, if you guys remember when I was under many directories and we were looking at case date, here under case date, this right here will say, hey, things aren't mapped, but this is where you'd be able to go in here and map if you're using Law Toolbox. We could spend an hour just on that, but just know you do have options for Law Toolbox. All right, so I'm going to go through this part pretty quickly. We're at 12:50 and I still need to go through the Outlook add-in. So in Neos, to be able to tag emails from your emails, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to open up, I'm going to bring my email over here. Okay. I have a whole bunch of emails and I need it to get to my case, but you want to make sure that you have the correct add-in for Neos.
All right, awesome. So let me minimize that a bit. Okay, so just as Pam had said, when you are in Outlook and you are ready to um, tag these attachments. Now you might be wondering why I have multiples here, and that's just because we have environments internally that we test with. So let's say, for example, you are going, I believe this is the right one. Perfect. Okay. So we are in Neos for Outlook, and I have oh, you know what? So this is the one that I have received, but and I think an example that Pam does want to share. So if just so we'll do it two ways. So first of all, if you have ones that you have either received or that you've already sent and you want to tag them back, you can just locate a case that you have here. And if you have attachments, you can choose to include those. You can choose to include all or just ones that you'd like to have and choose the type and category so you can assign those correctly in your SharePoint. And then you would choose the email topic and then choose to tag. But the new feature that I think Pam also wanted to share is, let's say you are in a new email. Oh, there we go. We're just going to let's make it down a little bit. There we go. So let's say you're in a brand new email and I'm typing this email to Pam and I've put in part of it. And so this feature, this tag and send that I'm going to share with you is something that you should do while you are, you're in the new email, but you're ready to send. So this will be the last portion that you're ready. So I have my test email here, and I'm ready to send it to her. And when I go to the group actions and tag email, and so again, these are my recent cases here. And you'll notice that when I click, this button is different. So before we were only tagging emails that either we received or we sent. And now while I'm in a draft, I can tag and send that email. So again, this is the last step because it's a two-step process. It's going to both tag this back to the case I've selected, and it's also going to send the email right away. So if you've hit this and you're like, wait a minute, make sure that you are aware that you are ready to complete the email. So when I hit tag and send here, you'll notice that my email has been tagged, and then just a second later, it's already been sent, so I can't make any changes after the fact. So I'm going to bring this up over here because I think we are nearing time. So let's go ahead and take a look. So Pam did cover a lot of content today. So we did cover the checklist, and I know you've all are maybe familiar, but just as a reminder, depending on different areas of where you are inside Neos and you're looking for more assistance, so like checklist, for example, if you go ahead and click the question mark, you'll see some suggested articles on this top right on this flyout pane. We have video tutorials, related articles, and these are articles that are heavily viewed. So if you're looking for questions about, how to more information about the checklist and what this view is like, or how to modify checklist items, or the checklist task pane, which can be accessible from that details button there, definitely take a look here. And the great thing about this is if you're navigating through to different articles, it won't clutter up your browser window there. Another area that we covered also was regarding the case calendar. So, well, in this case, I guess I don't have any events, but if I were to click the question mark there, you'll notice that the options here do change based on the current tab that I'm in. So let's go ahead and I can click the support portal. Happens to already have it open. So one thing that I do want to call out is I did see someone had some suggestions about how we are handling checklists and auxiliary checklists. So if that is an idea that you think could make our product better, please go ahead and click this link, which will allow you to create an idea, and our product team does check those regularly. And we have a KB article, it's 1784, with full instructions. If you need to create a brand new idea, those instructions are in there, as well as if you're just browsing to see some ideas that already exist, you can go ahead and vote on that idea. So the more votes, the better. So definitely take a look there. Again, we have our What's New. Don't forget to take a look here. We promote our Neos Academies and all of our free webinars that we have. We have the sign up links, and then once those are complete, you can access the recorded webinars there. So plenty of information, release information gets there as well. And then, as Pam did mention, if you're looking for some additional training on the features that we covered today, you can book private training for your firm. And then we also have our Learning Hub, which has all of the videos that across all areas of Neos. We have all of our previously recorded academies on there. So if you just want to jump back to an older one, as well as all of our free webinars that we offer as well. So take a look there. And so let's jump real quick into the knowledge base, and we're just going to kind of slide through this. So just first and foremost, I like to set my articles by last updated. This way you can see the most recent information first. But if you'd also like to see the most viewed, that might be, those are heavily viewed articles that might help, gaining more information. So let's go ahead and do a quick search here. So you can either access these articles by search or using the tree view. So let's say that I wanted to search by cancel event. And you'll see that we have a suggested article here. So I can just click that, and that list from 800 so articles just whittles down to only 13. And you can see that I have the KB article related to canceling events. So that's a really quick way to find what you're looking for. And if I wanted to just remove that, I can just click the X there. And then, of course, you can use the tree view. So we covered today a checklist. One of the great things that I love about this tree view is that it can expand even further. And so everything related to checklists is all under checklist. So auxiliary, case, primary, checklist summary. So definitely take a look and check that out. We also have the case calendar as well as the global calendar in here. And Pam did touch upon Law Toolbox. So if you're wondering where that is under integrations, and then under Law Toolbox category there. And as well as our Outlook add-in. So I will just close that out and reference our Outlook add-in, as well as that tag and send feature that we covered is all in here. And so if you need any additional help, definitely reach out to us using Get Support, and our support team would love to help you out. All right, so I think that about closes us out. We are at time, so thank you so much for joining us today. Our next Neos Academy is going to be in October, so you will see a sign up for that soon. So definitely go here to see the next one. If you haven't seen our Neos certification, definitely go through there. It's free to become a pro of Neos. So we offer a certification on all areas of Neos. And also we are having an upcoming release next month. So don't forget to catch in September on the 17th. We're going to be covering a review of all the Neos release contents, as well as we will have some automation updates coming. So definitely want to take a look at that. Well, thank you everyone for coming today. We really appreciated you joining us, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys. Thanks. Thanks, Lauren.